for live qualifying in the Monaco Grand Prix.
Monaco. It's reverberated to the sound of the racing car since 1929 and is the jewel in the crown of Formula One. It's amazing, really. Just 2 short miles of tarmac has given us years of incredible memories. Casino Square, one of the most picturesque parts of the circuit, home to the people watchers. Not that the drivers get much time to stop and stare.
Into Casino Square again.
Every corner's iconic, every corner holds special motor racing memories. You make your way around Lowe's hairpin, and then there it is, the famous Monaco Tunnel. And amazingly, for a man who won here on 6 different occasions, one of Ayrton Senna's most famous Monaco moments happened right here.
That is Senna, sensation. Ayrton Senna goes out of the Monaco Grand Prix at the Portier. Spoke out of the back of the Williams.
F1 cars exit this tunnel at over 160 miles an hour. The driver's eyes adjusting to the light as they come out. And if something goes wrong here, you know about it.
Oh, all sorts of problems there.
Past the harbour, round to back, down to the swimming pool in front of the adoring fans. Times may have changed, speeds may have changed, but when you walk around here, you get a real sense of Monaco's history.
Ferrari wins the Monaco Grand Prix. There goes Prost. What an incredible development. One of the most exciting Monaco Grand Prix for years and years. An incredible achievement, and I think he's blown his engine as he does so.
Approaching the end of the lap, Rascasse. And you know what this place is famous for.
That's going to keep in pole position, I wouldn't be at all surprised.
The right again, the left, and into the Rascasse.
And let's be honest, Jenson and Lewis aren't too shabby around Monaco either. So could Britannia rule on these streets for the 3rd year in a row?
Lewis Hamilton, he's a winner again. Jenson Button wins in Monaco.
Last weekend in Spain, it was a race that rewarded a quality car. Here, the 2 British boys may fancy their chances around the tight testing confines of the Principality, but they can't afford to rest on their laurels. Monaco is a place where a driver's ability really comes to the fore. But who will shine today and secure the most crucial pole position of the season? Well, with so much at stake this afternoon, drivers won't even be allowing themselves to think about tomorrow yet, let alone the races that continue to come thick and fast. Canada and Silverstone are looming large on the horizon. And looming large all around us here in the Monaco harbour, the floating palaces of the rich and famous. The race itself almost interrupts the sometimes week-long round of long lunches and even longer parties, as seemingly recession-proof Monte Carlo remains the place to see and to be seen. And of course, David Coulthard and Eddie Jordan know a good party when they see one, but they're really here to take a look at the cars this weekend. And Eddie, there are very few places in the world where you can see the ferocity of a Formula One car quite like Monaco.
Well, any of the drivers who don't treat this place with respect, it is ferocious. I mean, it's extremely daunting at every aspect, and if you don't do the right thing, it will bite you, and bite you very hard.
And we're on our boat just here by the tunnel. The drivers fly out, they go around the Nouvelle chicane. And this is a place where, when the title battle is as tight as it is this year, the drivers themselves can make a real difference.
Well, indeed, we've seen it over the years here, the history of Monaco. If you've got track position, even if you're in a slower car, you can maintain that and bring it to the finish. Very, very difficult for the drivers to overtake here. And it is a place where we can see some surprises in performance.
And we're expecting an exciting qualifying session and an even more exciting race. But David Coulthard is one of a select group of men who know how it feels to call themselves Monaco Grand Prix winners. Of course, long before he was even racing karts around little circuits in Scotland, Sir Stirling Moss was flying around the streets around us here, taking Lotus to their first ever Formula One win. Remarkably, that was 50 years ago.
I love all racing. The danger to me was an important ingredient, like salt is with cooking. I'd like to thank everybody out there who is kind enough to write to me or email me or whatever after the shunt I had at the weekend.
Well, Sir Stirling, it's fantastic to see you. How frustrating has the past couple of months been for a man as active as yourself?
Oh, enormous, I can't tell you. I mean, I've had to stop my historic racing. Mind you, it'd been far worse if I'd been driving, but then, of course, when I was driving, I was younger and you heal quicker. I mean, I broke my back and my legs in 1957, whenever it was, and I was racing again within a month. But now, at my age, that doesn't happen like that, I'll tell you.
So just explain the operation that you had on your feet.
Well, I smashed my feet, and they had to patch them together, and so they've done this. It's amazing, really. I mean, I've got a chassis in there, boy, which is worthy of being designed by Colin Chapman, and they are now, I'm glad to say, I won't say completely healed, but well on the way.
Falling down a lift is kind of a strange accident. You're much more versed in accidents in Formula One cars, and you've got one of your steering wheels alongside you there. I believe that's the steering wheel from Goodwood in 62. That's
Goodwood 62, and of course I drive like this, and this is where my head went for. Because remember, we had no seat belts or anything like that, and no airbags. I mean, if we had an airbag there, I probably wouldn't have had to retire.
Are you of the belief that Formula One is almost too safe these days?
Well, you can't say what would make it more dangerous, but I must say I'm glad that I raced when it was dangerous, because the exhilaration of going round a really fast corner, 140, 150 miles an hour, and knowing that if you go off you might die, sure makes you feel pretty good when you get through it without dying. You know what I mean?
Well, Stirling, another man who's decided that he misses the buzz of Formula One and motor racing is Michael Schumacher. What do you make of his return to the sport?
I think he was ill-advised to come back now, to tell you the truth. I mean, he was, in my mind, a real racer. And racers are born, they're not made, and I don't think now he is a racer. I think now he's a very, very good and very polished driver, but not a real racer. I must say I wouldn't have liked to have seen Fangio come back either and then not be what he was. To me, he is the greatest driver ever of Formula One, and he will remain there.
It's the start of the race of 1,000 corners, the Monte Carlo Grand Prix. It's never been won by a British driver yet, but Stirling Moss in Maserati number 28 is out to put that right. He streaks over the line, the first ever British winner, with Fangio second and Jean Perrin third.
So it is Monaco time of the year again, and a special racing circuit for you, Monaco, wasn't it?
Fantastic. I mean, Monaco's always been the place of glamour. All the pretty girls come over from Italy. You'd make signals and wave and blow kisses and say, oh yeah. Oh, of course I would.
During the race?
Yes. Of course. I mean, going down to a hairpin, and I remember when the Ferraris were following, going into a hairpin, and I go round and I could just see Phil Hill there and just go like this, you know. I could see people, they're there. Going past the Alibaba, a couple of girls sitting out there, you know, with pale pink lipstick, I remember. You know, those sort of things were all part and parcel of it.
Of the current crop of drivers, who do you enjoy watching the most?
I think Vettel, I would think, is probably the fastest. Alonso, I think, is right up there, because you're talking of racers there. And Lewis and of course Jensen. I mean, I have a great respect for Jensen because he drives with his head, and Jensen's got it up here, and that must always, in my mind, overall must win.
Right, well, you might be sitting and watching Jensen for the next few weeks racing a car, but before long,
once those feet are totally mended, you'll be the one in the race suit getting back behind the wheel, eh?
Yeah, thank God there aren't Le Mans starts, that's all I can say. Me with a Zimmer frame and a Le Mans start.
Oh, what a man, and what an absolute pleasure to share his company for a morning. And we're now joined by another man who it's nice to see, Johnny Herbert, who finished on the podium here in 1996. So we've got two race winners here in Formula One. Hands up who would like to drive around here wearing a short-sleeve T-shirt and a cork hat like Sir Sterling.
Well, not me, my hands are firmly down, but we have to remember at that time, that was the norm. And you've got to live for your time. And of course, we're just, we've had the benefit of seatbelts and, hands devices and all the modern technology today.
And it's interesting to hear that he's sort of as eloquent and as sharp talking about contemporary Formula One as he is talking about his 60s heyday, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and it's amazing that still today that the guy's so sort of fresh with all the memories that were so long ago, and it's so lovely to hear him talk.
Now, I'm sure that the memories are fresh of what it's like to be a race steward at modern Formula One because, of course, you were the driver's representative on the stewards panel in Malaysia. Damon Hill's doing your duty here this weekend. What's it like on that panel? Do they sort of lean on you slightly and constantly say, well, you're the one that's driven in Formula One? What do you think?
No, it's been very good. I say my experience was very good. I think one thing it does do, it gives it a lot more credibility, and I think that's very important. Of course, we understand everything that's going on, but there is no pressure. We just watch the monitors. We have a couple of replays. We have another look at it, and I just give my understanding of what that situation was, because some of the stewards don't understand that, and I think it's a very good idea, and it's working very well.
Johnny, one has to assume, from my experience going up and down representing the teams in years gone by, it seems to be very legalised, and you're bringing a sporting effect to the decision. How important do you think that the drivers see that your input is pretty crucial to this?
I think they see it a lot, and I think, as I said, the credibility, I think, goes down to the drivers. I think the drivers like it because they do see some of the decisions that are going on now are much more fair in the way that they should be, because a rule is a rule, but sometimes as a driver there are things that happen that you cannot avoid, and with us as being there, we monitor it and we show it to the other stewards what is going on.
Okay, well, you had a few decisions to make. Damon Hill may have a few more to make this weekend because it's always a busy race for the stewards. Pick a winner for us this weekend, go on.
Well, I think I'm still going to go for the Red Bulls. I think Mark is on a roll, and I think Mark will be very strong here.
Okay, lovely to see you. It's a hard life being a former Formula One driver, isn't it? Hanging out on a boat, eating nice food. I've seen the lunch down there. Can you make sure some of that comes up to us? That would be lovely.
No, I'm about to jump in the jacuzzi.
Well, you're not the only one, actually. Look at our poor cameramen, the lengths they have to go through for us to have a successful race weekend on air. Sam, enjoy that jacuzzi, my friend. We'll all be diving in there with you after the race. Johnny, lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. And if you actually have a little look over our shoulders down here, you can see the really tight pits and paddock complex down there where the fans are starting to gather for the race. And as ever, the gossip, the chatter about Formula One is spreading like wildfire. Thankfully, though, Ted Kravitz has waded his way through to bring us the latest news from the Monaco Grand Prix.
Rather than celebrating his victory last Sunday in Spain, Mark Webber spent the evening driving from Barcelona to Monaco. That win has put the Aussie right back in championship contention.
The result in Barcelona was very, very good for me, and things can change quickly. You need to keep your feet on the ground, but consistently being at the front and performing and getting top results is certainly going to help that championship campaign.
But Webber predicts Monaco will be tougher for Red Bull than Barcelona.
I think it's going to be hard to have the same advantage, to be honest. We were pretty quick there. I'm not expecting to be a second down the road in qualifying, even though it's a short lap here, but let's hope we can challenge for the front row.
Meanwhile, teammate Sebastian Vettel has issued a mild rebuke to his team after another reliability problem cost him second place in Spain.
Not a nice record, I guess, to have 3 out of 5 times where something happened, but I think similar to Bahrain, we still got the car home, and who knows how valuable these points can be.
It turns out Vettel's front right brake disc split in 2, so Red Bull have added a second brake duct to help cooling and are using a harder wearing disc to avoid a recurrence in Monaco.
It's always very hard on brakes here. They tend to run quite hot, so it's a matter of managing that and ensuring that you've got adequate cooling.
Lewis Hamilton's crash has been traced to a faulty wheel nut that ended up destroying the wheel rim.
The wheel failure was a consequence of not enough clamping from the wheel nuts. It moved. The rim was able to rub on the brake drum. That rose temperature. It changed the characteristics of the magnesium and had a fatigue failure.
Meantime, Jenson Button comes to Monaco chasing a repeat of his win here last year and believes he's in a good position after practice.
I'm reasonably happy. You know, we don't know where we stand. The Ferrari looks very quick. Qualifying, we've got to keep our heads on, and we've got to stay relaxed and just try our best to get through it.
Fernando Alonso will not be driving one-handed through corners in Monaco as he did last weekend in Spain, because Ferrari have dropped their F-duct for this weekend. The F-duct, which stalls the rear wing and gives a straight-line speed advantage, is still being used by McLaren this weekend, but looks set to be banned next year.
It's a very clever technology, but one that perhaps, as we see with some of the other solutions, has is perhaps marginal on safety.
Mercedes have gone back to their short wheelbase car that suits Monaco's tight corners. Michael Schumacher and Nico Rosberg are eyeing their best weekend so far this season.
I got back into the rhythm of the track, particularly in the long run. By the end, sort of increased the pace again, and quite confident. Things are good.
But we'll soon find out if everybody can find a clear lap in qualifying. The drivers of the slower cars, Hispania, Lotus and Virgin, say the big teams shouldn't expect them to jump out of the way.
I cannot drive my mirrors. I mean, in qualifying, when you're doing your lap, then if the guy catches you up, tough luck.
Perhaps here the nature of the circuit, somebody will not be happy, somebody will be blocked, but this is always the story in Monaco.
If you're on a quick lap, then I don't care. I mean, I will tape my mirrors in that lap and I will not look into it. That's for everyone the same.
Well, the new teams aren't ready to put into the lay-by, are they? Just over half an hour to go into a qualifying. 24 cars on track, a 20-minute session for the very first session, just over 2 miles of tarmac. This could get tasty, and as you, I suppose, learned to your cost 3 years ago, it can be very difficult not to get yourself into a muddle here in qualifying.
Yeah, indeed. You know, you rely a little bit on the team telling you where the traffic is. Here you can see me holding up Heikki Kovalainen at the last corner, and I was actually stopped from going out in the last part of qualifying, which meant I started 10th in that particular race. But it is difficult here. I don't agree with the young guys in those new teams saying that they're not going to look in the mirrors, because I think that's simply dangerous.
Well, what would you say to your drivers, Eddie, if you were a team manager or a team owner for one of these new teams?
Well, before I get into that, I have to point out that the drivers have all qualified to be here with their super license. If there's a contentious issue, it is to do with the team selection. These teams, in my opinion, have not got themselves up to the level that I thought they would be, and as a result, the drivers can only do the maximum they can. So I have no issue with the drivers. I have a bit of an issue with the teams.
And in terms of answering the actual question?
The question is, I do exactly what they're doing. Timo Glock is absolutely right. Tape up the mirrors, go for it. It's up to you. It's you against all 20 other 5 guys there. Go for it.
OK, he's added an extra driver as well to the grid. There's only 24.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Then I always do that anyway. Exaggeration is one of my trump cards.
OK, I've noticed. Well, one of the teams who were probably getting a little bit worried about maybe being blocked and having problems here were Ferrari. Well, Fernando Alonso might not have that issue to worry about, because in the final part of free practice, David, this happened.
Yeah, this isn't the rise up to Casino Square. He'll be looking to spot his braking as late as possible, but look, he just gets a bit wide, locks that front wheel, and he's in a one-way ticket to the Armco, and he has done quite a bit of damage to that chassis.
And we're not too sure what's going to happen, because there's an awful lot of a rebuild job to be going on there. Thankfully, though, Ted Kravitz is hovering around Ferrari for us, and we can see here, Ted, shots of Fernando Alonso walking dejectedly back to the pits. They couldn't get the car back until after that final practice session had finished. Very little time to work on the car, but the big question is, what's the damage?
The damage, Jake, is enough to put Fernando Alonso out of qualifying. So just to stress, Fernando Alonso will not be taking part in the qualifying session to come. The damage is too much. You can just see, if you can zoom in there, you can see there's still a tyre mark on the side of the Ferrari there, and it was the right front wheel that actually bent round in the impact of that crash and cracked the chassis wide open. There was also damage to the drive shaft that came out and actually ripped a hole out of the drive shaft housing in the gearbox. So that chassis there, as you can see, Jake, by the little amount of work that's going on to it, it's a big job. So what they need to do is stow that damaged chassis. They will bring a new chassis out and rebuild that for the race, but it's a very big job. It'll take 5 or 6 hours to do. Fernando Alonso will still start the Monaco Grand Prix, but it will be from the pit lane, and in Monaco, that's the last place you want to start the Grand Prix.
Absolutely. Very difficult to overtake, of course. Ted, thanks ever so much for hot-footing it down there and getting us the latest. And Fernando looked so fast in free practice, and that's such a blow to Ferrari, guys.
Well, we talked about the ferocity of the circuit. Sterling mentioned it. Everyone has talked about it. This was not, for me, a big accident. I'm absolutely surprised that this chassis has cracked, because the runoff was virtually non-existent. He glanced against a barrier, and I still have to see the full impact of it, but I think the car didn't stand up to the test that I think it should have done.
Well, I think that the front wheels now are a lot more robust. In the previous seasons, we've seen these sort of carbon spinners that were, you know, external parts of the wheel, and now what they've done to get the aero advantage is actually made more material in the wheel. And maybe this is why it's sort of damaged the chassis in such a way.
OK, huge blow to Ferrari. Big pressure on Felipe Massa. He's now got to step up and deliver, because it looks like he might be the only guy picking up points for Ferrari here this weekend. But what about Mark Webber? Well, he is a man full of confidence. A flawless victory in Spain last weekend, and he comes here knowing that the Red Bull car is quick just about anywhere. A few moments ago, he spoke to Ted Kravitz.
Well, Mark, first of all, the big news going into qualifying is that you've got one less rival. Fernando Alonso seems to be out of it.
Yeah. You know, it's easy done. I know the feeling. Suzuka last year, just a small off, and yeah, can wreck your chassis, obviously. I'm not a big fan of the rule, to be honest. I think if they could get a car turned around and take part in qualifying, then, but I think it's going to be tight, obviously, for him to take part. But if you can take part, they should maybe let you take your grid position. Yeah,
well, I think he can start the race from the pit lane in a different chassis. How's it going with you, though? How is it looking going into qualifying?
Pretty good. We had a pretty good P3. It's tight. Obviously, we've got a few more characters around us this weekend, which is, you know, it's an interesting fight. Always easier at Monaco. Things can change, you know, pretty quickly. You know, Robert's driving very, very well. You know, Felipe is strong on the Ferrari. Lewis is always good here. So, and Seb and I are at the moment, you know, not too far away. So, keep pressing.
And are you just going to fuel her up for Q1 and just keep going, maybe 4 or 5, fuel for enough laps, 4 or 5 laps, and just hope to get some good traffic?
Yeah, just try and get a clean. You just need one clean lap with 3 sectors, hopefully, and that's enough when your tyres are ready. So, same for everyone. And then, you know, Q2 is not exactly a holiday either. There's still 16 cars out there, and so, you know, it's Q3 should hopefully be just down to drivers and cars.
Thanks, Mark. Have a good session.
Well, Mark Webber will be hoping for a great weekend this weekend. Momentum's been difficult for Red Bull, hasn't it? Because, of course, they've had various reliability issues. But Mark Webber will be hoping to fly around the streets of Monaco here in front of the harbour. And over the years, we've had some fantastic races here, from stunning Sterling driving around here to David Coulthard's double. And it all stems from a certain circuit in Northamptonshire where Formula One was born 60 years ago this very week.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, go, go.
I see a line of cars and they are painted black.
Over the decades, musical tastes may have changed, but one place has remained the home of British motorsport.
Good morning, welcome to Silverstone. The sun is shining, we're having a marvellous time here at the British Grand Prix, 1983.
Hey! One man, one goal, one life with each other, sisters, brothers. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.
It's provided fantastic memories for millions, but offers mixed emotions for me.
Oh my gosh! Last time I was in a car at Silverstone, it was an experience to forget. But this time, I had a chauffeur.
Because he's little, he looks much bigger on the telly. We've got to have these stairs to get him in the car. He's only tiny.
You think his bum looks big in there? You know what's really annoying? Yeah. People lean in the car sometimes and go, good luck.
And perhaps I needed luck. David only stopped driving in Formula One 18 months ago, but alarmingly was already asking for directions.
God, they do feel so aggressive, don't they, these cars? Oh, I'm nervous already. There's not much in the way of suspension, is there? Do you know what's horrible? All I can see is the back of your head, and that is very unnerving. Oh. Now this is the corner that scares me more than any other at Silverstone.
Just remind you of your Lotus, right?
Oh, I didn't like this when I raced it, and I don't like it now. Oh my.
Awesome. Winning here was definitely one of the highs of my racing career. Crowd lining, a sea of red and white Union Jacks, everybody shouting, Jake! Jake, we love you!
Jake, why are you going so slowly?
I think I saw a banner there as well that said, "Jake, will you have my baby?"
Tell me what you think of this new section as you drive it.
This is going to be incredibly fast entry here on a Grand Prix car. Look at that. They're going to be 4G as they pull through the right, into the left, absolutely flat through here. And then they'll be hard on the brakes. Down into this tight right-hander here. Look at that, right into the apex. And a short burst of acceleration into the hairpin. Can you imagine this in the dry in a Grand Prix car? These guys will be fighting the rear acceleration and then immediately into this left-hand kink.
How much exciting racing do you think the new section's going to give us?
I think that's going to be quite a tricky corner that we've just done, very bumpy, and that might create an overtaking opportunity down here into the braking zone as they run down into the complex here.
Having that lunch was a bad idea, wasn't it?
Well, I thought it was a bit strange how you were sticking into a couple of chicken kebabs. You know, you can tell you're a television man through and through. Free lunch, you were there. No, don't you just love it?
This is the most incredible thing. However much you think you know about what it's like to drive a Formula One car, no matter how many TV shows or books or simulators or Lotus races you get involved with, even driving a car like this, which is, I don't know, maybe 70% of an F1 car. Oh my life. Incredible, DC.
Well, it was an honour and a privilege to drive you around the new Silverstone track, Jake.
And the pleasure, my friend, was all mine. Do you give it the thumbs up, this new section?
Definitely. Great circuit, really well engineered, well designed racetrack, and I definitely think we're going to see better racing here than we've seen in the past.
And what an amazing experience, well worth a thumbs up. And I suppose that rural Northamptonshire does look a little bit different to Monaco when you compare the two shots here, but it really doesn't matter because that is such a special racing circuit, and it's great to see they've done something that, according to the drivers, has improved the track, Eddie.
Well, before we talk about the track, if ever there was a race circuit that pulled on my heartstrings, it is Silverstone. I grew up there basically racing, as indeed most of us did. And to have 17 years, the continuity, you can build, you can invest, you can do things. This, for me, was one of the major decisions of last season, is to get this new contract doing. So well done to the boys at Silverstone. Fantastic.
Here, here. And you certainly can't accuse the circuit or the British Racing Drivers Club of not having the ambition to improve the place. And the current president of the BRDC is Damon Hill. He's here in a slightly different capacity this weekend. We'll talk about that in just a moment, Damon. But how great to see that the investment is there for the British Grand Prix, and it's an investment that really will help the fans and their enjoyment of the Grand Prix weekend.
Well, absolutely. The important thing is that we remember that this is a show. This is a competitive show. It's got to have all the vital ingredients. It's got to be exciting to drive on. It's got to be possible for spectators to come and watch and enjoy themselves in comfort. And that's part of the programme. That's been the ambition, and we're glad that it's underway. I mean, it's nowhere near finished yet, but it's an ongoing process. But as Eddie just said, we've got 17 years potentially, so we don't know where we'll be in 17 years' time.
Well, hopefully still racing at the British Grand Prix. You mentioned the show there. You're very much part of the show this weekend. Are you ready for your biggest influence over a Grand Prix result, probably since you finished racing in 1999?
Yeah, I do feel a little bit like Mr. Ben sometimes. 1 minute I'm one thing, next minute I'm something else. So this weekend I'm an FIA steward and potentially in a position to dish out quite serious punishments on misdemeanors and drivers who transgress. I've had to explain to them that I do have potentially, in some eyes anyway, I might be prejudicial to a certain driver, but I've had to maintain a very good impartiality stance on the whole thing, and so far so good.
I'm sure Damon's taken it very professionally, but when he said I'll be handing out various punishments, he had a wry grin on his face there, didn't he?
Yeah, well, why do I think he's got 10 grand lined up as a punishment for Michael Schumacher straight away just for turning up? Damon, I used to wonder about some of the decisions that stewards made, and I suppose you did at some point in your career as well. Have you gained any confidence being on the inside as to how they actually come to the decisions?
Well, I think, David, the really good thing, and you're somebody who's been involved with the GPDA and still involved, and I think we've often felt that the stewards would benefit from a little bit of insight from the drivers, and I've been able to talk to the two stewards that I'm working with this weekend, and they've been very keen to hear what I have to say, and it's helped them make decisions. And I think that what they're quite surprised by perhaps is actually drivers themselves want to have disciplined drivers around them. I mean, we had an incident in the GP2 race yesterday. It was quite a serious accident, could have been a lot worse. And I think that every driver in the grid does not want to have a driver who is going to be making bad decisions on a continuous basis. So there's an element of self-policing in this, I think, which is good.
Damon, it's Eddie here. I can't help but think as I'm listening to you there, we were so impressed with Sterling. I'm absolutely so impressed with you, President of BRDC, and possibly the best decision it's made. Now you're doing this with the stewards. Is there a difference, or are we seeing an emergence of a new Damon Hill?
What are you after, Eddie?
I don't know. I'm just making up a question here. They said ask him a question, and that's what I'm doing. Damon, answer it for heaven's sake, please.
Well, no, I'm very keen. I've had a fantastic career in motor racing. I've benefited enormously from this sport. Both my father and I, and now my son is racing. It's played a huge part in my life. So I think it is. You know, you've got to get involved in some way if you're passionate about something. So that's really where this is coming from. It's a little bit of an information gathering exercise. I don't certainly want to be a steward for the rest of my life, but you know, you need to learn about all the angles, and that makes this sport a fantastic sport.
Okay, Damon, we can see Bruno Senna wandering around behind you. It's a good weekend for the young drivers. Congratulations to your wee boy, Josh, who did very well when he was racing here. So thank you very much for joining us. Good to chat, and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Damon. And Eddie Jordan making it up. Who would have thought? Anyway, we're now gearing up for qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix. Not long to go, and at this iconic location with the BBC, you are not going to miss a trick. If you want to log on to the BBC website, bbc.co.uk/F1, then you can do just that. There's all kinds of stats, facts, blogs. You can also watch the sessions live on there. You can press the red button during the race tomorrow. There's loads of stuff to do on there, including riding on board with various drivers. And you can also alter the commentary options as well. Or for the next 7 days, just check out the BBC iPlayer if you miss anything right here. Now, with 5 former winners helping to make up the grid here this weekend, experience is going to count for an awful lot. However, even the most knowledgeable Formula One driver would struggle to compete with Nico Rosberg, because he has been driving around these streets since he was knee-high to a world champion.
It's very special for me to drive here, because as you say, this is where I've grown up, so I know all these corners really, really well. It's my way to school, you know, going through the tunnel. And it's nice. I mean, it's a great track to drive on. Wake up in my apartment, you know, more or less walk to the paddock, which is really strange, and have all my friends, my family here to support me, and so it's a nice experience.
If you knew at the start of your Mercedes career, as it were, that you were going to be about 30 points ahead of Michael Schumacher at this stage in the championship, would you have taken that?
For sure, that doesn't sound too bad, no. But even more so comparing to him, I think in general in the championship, with the car that we've had at the beginning of the season, I'm in a really good position because I'm not far from Jensen, 20 points down, and Jensen doesn't have the fastest car at the moment. I mean, he didn't manage more than 5th place in Barcelona, so everything's still possible.
Nico, tell us about your session. We spoke to Ross. He said you were on slightly different programs than Michael.
Is it frustrating for you when people like me turn up and constantly ask you questions about simply beating your teammate?
Nico,
You've outqualified Michael.
Rivalry between you and Michael.
We're not used to seeing Michael in front of you.
Comfortably ahead of your teammate.
You've outqualified Michael. Nico?
No, beating your teammate is very important, and the comparison to him is important because he's the only one who has the same car as you. And so that's the best way of really judging your performance also. Obviously for me it's not the easiest of tasks this year because he's a rather good teammate.
And when you look at this season, you've of course had 2 podiums. Do you look back at that in comparison to Spain and think, I love that car? I mean, how much is that car different to what you were in Spain?
No, Spain was a bit of a strange weekend. I mean, generally I struggled a little bit all weekend. But then again in qualifying I was 1/10 away from Michael, which I must be able to live with as long as it doesn't happen every time. And what was more disturbing was the big gap to Red Bull now all of a sudden. You know, although we'd developed and put on a good upgrade on the car, the gap just grew massively to Red Bull, and that was something we don't quite fully understand yet.
I read that you'd said that obviously the upgrades on your car worked, but you found it difficult to drive. Just to explain that.
In terms of me and my teammate, we have the same driving style, so what benefits him will benefit me also. The only thing is that maybe I struggle a little bit more with understeer. And in general this year we've had quite a lot of understeer in the middle of corners on our car, so that might be something. But other than that, the balance stayed pretty much the same with the upgrades that we got for Barcelona.
And a lot of people said that these car upgrades were very much to help Michael.
Well, there's nothing in that, because we have the same driving styles. When we got exactly the same update package on the car, we always complain about the same things. So there's nothing that can benefit him which doesn't benefit me.
Well, Nico Rosberg had a bad weekend in Spain, and in just over 15 minutes' time, he can start making amends. Qualifying coming your way very shortly for the Monaco Grand Prix. Just have a quick look over here. Look at these people down here. Look at that. Not jealous in the slightest, of course. And actually, the reason why I'm not jealous is because we're so lucky to be here. Very shortly, we will hear the ferocious, overpowering sound of 24 V8 Formula 1 cars roaring along here around the track around us. And actually, this place is so special when it comes to Formula 1. It's so small that you can actually fit this entire Principality into Greater Manchester almost 700 times. And you can just imagine the sounds reverberating off the buildings. And if it's amazing for us to watch, what's it like to drive around here?
Monaco Street Circuit, Monte Carlo, 2.075 miles. Downforce, very high. Classic moment, Senna keeps Mansell at bay, 1992.
As Mansell swarms around all over the McLaren. What a battle for the lead.
Bumpy circuit, you know, it's very low speed, so you need a car that has you know, sensational traction, very good braking, all the things which will generate good lap times here.
The Casino Square, just on the top of the hill at turn 3, when you go over the little brow and turn left. That's pretty good to nail that, to brake late over that bump and not to hit the wall there. It's pretty challenging.
To back for me is an exceptional corner. It's very fast, and when you get it good through there, it feels very special.
I enjoy especially the back corner and then the swimming pool area, because it's very fast, and that's really where you feel the speed as well. You got the walls very close.
You just clip the curb. The car is normally jumping a little bit around, oversteers around, but you still manage to keep it on the circuit. It's a nice feeling.
Favorite corner is the Piscine, the chicane there. It's quite fast, quite challenging to get a lap time there.
Mirabeau, very tricky because of the cambers. You always lift it inside wheel into there and lock up. It's a tricky corner.
There are so many cars this year, and traffic is going to be the main thing for the qualifying, but especially for the weekend, because the qualifying is the weekend at the end.
It's such a challenge, you know, you're so close to the wall, but obviously not going into it. It's a fantastic challenge. I love coming here.
Fantastic challenge, fantastic circuit. We went actually to watch during free practice. Even David Coulthard was taking photos of the cars on his mobile phone and sort of cooing and oohing as they went past. It really is the most remarkable place. But a man who's got a few other things on his mind than just how beautiful the cars look flying around here is the team principal for McLaren, Martin Whitmarsh.
Testing.
Martin, yep, testing. The mic is working just fine. You look very cool hanging out there in your aviator sunglasses, but it's, of course, down to business here this weekend. How are you going to keep your cars out of trouble around here with 24 cars bumming around?
Well, definitely in Q1 it's going to be a real challenge. You know, we have a lot of slow cars. There's, in fact, I think only 23 cars buzzing around in Q1. I think we're just going to put them out there. They'll have to stay on relatively heavy fuel. They just got to find a gap, and they've got to make it for themselves. They've got to make sure in making it they don't impede anyone. So a real challenge for them. And all the time you've got to push very hard here. If you step out of line just by a few millimetres, you lose a wheel in an Armco. So it's a real pressure moment for the drivers and for the team.
Martin, Ferrari looked like they've shot themselves in the foot at this early stage. Does that put more pressure on you, and will you be disappointed if you're not in the front row of the grid?
Well, here we're always going to be disappointed if you're not on the front row of the grid. But, you know, I think last year, I mean, we were in a very similar position. Lewis ended up having damaged his gearbox, taking a 5-place hit. So, you know, it just demonstrates how hard you've got to push, the pressure that's on the drivers and the team. I don't think, you know, we're not focused on that. We'll be focused on trying to get through Q1, not go too silly, just make sure we can get through that, and that's not so straightforward. And then obviously Q2, and then really delivering Q3, sorry. You know, this morning I think we were struggling a little bit to get the tyres working. I think everyone was. So very difficult here to make sure that the tyres are in the right condition when you've got the open track and you've got the opportunity to hopefully do that qualifying time.
Martin, McLaren have an amazing record here. You've won 15 times. That's almost double the nearest rival, Ferrari. You've got a few things up your sleeve for this afternoon, surely?
I hope we have, but you know, we were changing the setup of a car since this morning. You know, we've had some great drives, including yours, of course, David, and you know, I think both of our current drivers have won here. They've won the last two Monaco. They can do it. If we can give them the car and the space on the track, they can definitely do it.
Tell me one thing, actually. The shades, is that to hide the effects of a Friday off in Monaco, or are you just trying to be cool because Cannes on as well down the road?
No, I was wearing them to go to the grid. You know, it's sunny out here at last, which is good news for everyone. Hopefully track temperatures increase a bit.
I'm sure you wouldn't have been at any parties over this Grand Prix weekend, Martin.
Absolutely focused on the job, as you know.
Correct. All right, nice to chat. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Enjoy this afternoon. Go well. Enjoy it. It's interesting when we went around actually and watched the two McLaren drivers going toe-to-toe around here, even if it was just in free practice. Lewis is so aggressive. He's throwing the car around. Jensen looks like he's sort of on an installation lap or something, but then the times come through and there's hardly anything to split them. Very different styles.
Yeah, it is indeed. And also when you watch the McLaren, it's very different the way they've got the car set up. It looks soft on the rear. It's popping its front wheel when it turns into the chicane. So it'll be interesting to see whether that is their special technique that gives them such great results here. But I think that between Jensen and Lewis, at the moment, Lewis looks like he's more in the zone on this track, and we've seen Jensen not quite as settled so far this weekend.
Yeah, talking about Lewis Hamilton being in the zone, he looks great anywhere he drives, but round here, he looks really special.
You don't have to have as much guts to get close to grass, but you have to have serious heart and serious passion to get close to these barriers. There's just no run of barriers. You go straight, you're going into a wall. The slightest error and your race is over.
And you can see the chat in full with Lewis Hamilton tomorrow. There's the current president of the FIA, Jean Todt. And actually, Eddie, we've been talking about, you know, the change in atmosphere at Formula One. And it's a very nice, relaxed, casual, friendly place to be this year, isn't it?
Well, Jean Todt, if that's what you're making reference to, Jean, of course, ran Ferrari. He was at Peugeot for a very long time. This man has huge experience in terms of running teams. And it's a very different style of management to that of Max Mosley. But very different cultures and very different things. And they bring their own good points as well.
There's Jensen Button making his way up to the garages. Of course, it was here last year that he won in his Brawn GP car, parked in the wrong place, of course, and then had to run all the way around to celebrate with his team. And there's a man who, as you can see, is not in a race suit, is not gearing up for qualifying today. Fernando Alonso has already had a nasty moment in free practice. He won't be racing today. A real blow for Ferrari. And we've been talking about Felipe Massa and whether or not he's been slightly knocked back a bit by the power and the pace of Fernando Alonso. There's a chance now for him today to step up and carry this team through, David.
Well, I think actually, if you recall, it was only a couple of races ago that Massa was leading the World Championship. I don't think he's having a bad season at all. I think that we've just seen a lot of different people getting into the zone at the different tracks. And of course, Monaco again is a unique challenge. And he was shading Fernando pretty well, I thought, through the practice session. So let's not write him off too early.
Okay, he looks nice and focused sitting in the car there. And while we take a look at the scenes and sounds of a Formula One paddock at Monaco Grand Prix weekend, there's Jean Todt having a chat with the Norbert Haug, the Mercedes Vice President of Motorsports. A quick chat about Red Bull. They've been very fast around the fast corners, but there aren't many of those here. How do you expect them to go this weekend, Eddie?
I still believe that they would be very competitive. You know, we were all waiting towards the end of that third session, and who pops up? Mark Webber. And I mean, this is just revitalized Mark Webber. None of us thought that he would really grab this championship like he is, and he's emerging as one of the real title contenders.
You're absolutely right, Jake, that this is a track that doesn't really lend itself to the sort of high-speed nature that we saw in Barcelona. But that last sector in Barcelona was very telling. Quickest in qualifying there were the two Red Bulls by over 2/10. In the race, it was a lot closer. I think it was actually Nico Rosberg who was quickest in that sector. So I think that we will see the Red Bulls very strong in quali, but it's going to be incredibly close. It's the shortest race lap of the season, so you can expect all the lap times to be a lot closer.
Now, you won here twice. You gave Red Bull their first podium here. What's the secret to a great lap in qualifying?
It's knowing where to be patient and where to push. And, you know, if we had enough time, I'd run you around corner by corner. But there's only about 4 places in this circuit where you really give it 100%. And the rest, you've got to let the car roll. And that's where the lap time comes.
Where are those places?
Well, the places you really have to let it roll is turn 1. I told Sebastian Vettel that last year, and unfortunately he tried to make up some lap time and put it in the wall. You've also got to let it roll through Rascasse, Portier as well, very important. And when you watch the young drivers, they tend to turn in a bit late. The guys with experience here know, turn in early and just skiff that apex of the armco.
Okay, the first part of qualifying is looming. We're going to see a few cars get knocked out nice and early here, but it might not necessarily be all of the new teams, because Lotus in particular have been looking good in free practice.
Well, we've all the commentators, if you read the press, have been highly critical about the drivers and the teams at the back, and perhaps the danger and, you know, the unknown factor of these other drivers. And I think they will step up to the plate. I think we're going to see a really exciting, and let's not be surprised if we see some big names knocked out in the first qualifying.
Well, certainly the free practice sessions have been fantastic. Drivers getting in each other's way. All kinds of things have been happening. And as you can see, the Monaco harbour, although it looks nice and calm and relaxed, is gearing up to reverberate to the sound of 23 very impressive Formula One cars. Fernando Alonso won't be taking part, but his rivals, they will.